Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me today. I'm going to talk about VCU's process for implementing computer-based testing, specifically ExamSoft, in our PharmD curriculum and ways in which we've tried to provide continuous improvement in that process. I do have an objective for today's webinar, and at the end of this session, I hope that you will be able to identify and discuss technical, administrative, and policy issues related to the implementation of ExamSoft or any computer-based testing system across multiple campuses. And I'll talk about the multiple campuses in just a second. Let me tell you a little bit about VCU. We are located in Central Virginia, in Richmond, Virginia. We are a top research university. We have more than 640 students enrolled in our professional, master's, and doctoral degree programs. We admit about 140 students into our PharmD program each year. We have 2 satellite campuses, one at the Inova Health System in Fairfax, Virginia, where there are 24 students in their P3 year. And we also have 10 students at the UVA Health System in Charlottesville, Virginia, where there are 10 students also in their P3 year. We have 75 full-time faculty and over 1,000 affiliate faculty across the Commonwealth. And then we also have probably about $9 million in research funding for the 2012-2013 fiscal year. So Stephanie, let's start the poll. This is where I'd like to find out how you all are using ExamSoft, or if you have plans to use ExamSoft in the near future. And so the first question is, yes, my school uses ExamSoft for computer-based testing. No. We're considering using ExamSoft for computer-based testing, or not exactly. We're not sure how and where to begin.
All right, that was the end of the poll. The results, we had 70% of our attendees today participate. 47% says yes, my school uses ExamSoft. 42% no, but we are considering using ExamSoft. And 11% said not exactly, we are not sure how and where to begin.
Okay, so I think this presentation will be helpful to the majority of you, especially those who said, not exactly, we're not sure how and where to begin, because we did go through some stumbling blocks, some stumbling points with the implementation of ExamSoft, and we've modified some things that we hope we'll be able to share with you all today. And so for those of you who are considering using ExamSoft for the future, hopefully you'll be able to glean some points about how we have implemented our system to make sure that we have a well-executed exam rolling out in all of our courses. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a historical perspective about how we landed on ExamSoft. And we began using a browser-based solution in the mid-2000s, right after we implemented a computer-based, a laptop requirement at our school. And so that product worked well with Blackboard, but you had to maintain a connection to the internet, which was sometimes kind of spotty, especially with 140 students in a class. Wireless wasn't as powerful then as it is now. So we did move away from that around 2006. Reaching out with our Inova Fairfax campus and plans for our Charlottesville campus, faculty wanted an effective and efficient method to administer exams across our satellite campuses. What we were doing at that time was federal expressing exams to and from these campuses. We could actually email the exams up, but to have them rated and scored by our grading system at the university, they had to be Federal Express. We had an instance where an exam was lost, and so we just needed to streamline this system a little bit better and just create some efficiencies there. The third issue was the perception of academic and professional misconduct reported by faculty and students in our AACP Graduating Student Survey and our AACP Faculty Survey. And in addition to that, we also administered surveys in our P1, P2, and P3 years. And so some students were of the perception that there was a little bit of cheating going on. And so ExamSoft helped us address some of that issue as well, and I'll talk about that in just a second. We also had the issue of assessment and reporting on our student learning outcomes for accreditation. And that is, how is it that we know that our students are learning everything it is that we intend for them to learn? You know, looking at our learning outcomes and professional competency statements, are we able to provide some data that says that our students are able to do all of these things? And so through categorization, ExamSoft is able to help us with that. And then I would say one of the major issues is that we needed a solution that did not require an internet connection during testing. In 2011, we piloted the Blackboard building block respondus. I shouldn't have said respondus, but a Blackboard building block that failed during a testing session, and it was because of bandwidth issues. And so with testing, we just knew that we could not be dependent upon the internet. So we needed a solution that would allow us to administer an exam without students being required to connect to the internet. So in the fall, in 2013, we started with the implementation of ExamSoft. And so we did not say we're going to allow faculty to choose which courses we're going to use ExamSoft and which faculty were not going to use ExamSoft. So what we decided after a faculty vote is we have our clinical therapeutics modules, and so we said all of the clinical therapeutics modules are capable of administering or having their exams administered through ExamSoft. So we will move forward with using ExamSoft to administer our clinical therapeutics exams and quizzes, and also our foundations exam. So you can see that between 2013 and 2014, you can see the number of weeks that a module ran and the number of computer-based assessments, I call them, because some of them were tests, some of them were quizzes, some of them were case-based exercises, all in the right-hand column. And I'll explain more about this in just a second. This is the ExamSoft usage since the beginning of our implementation. So in the fall of 2013 through the spring of 2015 up until about a month ago, we've had over 6,453 exam uploads. And of those uploads, we've only had to issue 24 paper-based copies since 2013. So that failure rate, if that's what you'd like to call it, is not that bad at all. And I would say that the rate that you see here is not indicative of a student's laptop failing. Sometimes it could have been a student who said, oh, I forgot I bought my iPad instead of my laptop, and I don't have SoftTest installed on my laptop. So I think we've had a very, very good story to tell about our ExamSoft implementation. And I probably should have shared this slide first, which takes you through some of the implementation, the timeline for implementation. We started talking about ExamSoft, or not necessarily ExamSoft, but a computer-based testing solution before 2012. In 2012, we vetted a few products, and ExamSoft was selected as the best product. We went through the procurement process, and because there were other products available on the market, we had to do a sole source or complete a sole source justification, which, you know, just stated why ExamSoft stood out above all of the others who may have cost a little bit less than the ExamSoft product. In June of 2013, after the students were gone for the summer, that's when I began faculty training, and I'll show you a slide in just a second that talks about the 3 different sessions I had and the frequency at which I offered those sessions. And then we also had an orientation for the students, which was probably not the best way to approach the implementation of ExamSoft with the students. The students had lots of feedback about how we implemented ExamSoft. The first piece of feedback was we were not considerate of them in our decision making. They felt that we should have run our decision to move forward with computer-based testing by the students before we decided on doing so. We really and truly didn't feel that that was 100% necessary because all of our students had a laptop because it's a requirement for our program, and many of them use them in class for in-class activities. The pilot began in August of 2013 with our infectious disease clinical therapeutics module, PHAR 604. Went well. We did not do a test. We did an IRAT session or TRAT or something like that. I think it was an IRAT session, a case-based session, just to see how it worked, just to give the faculty member an opportunity to import questions into ExamSoft. And so in just a second I'll talk about that. But we also wanted student feedback mid-semester about what worked well, what didn't work so well, what do you think we can do better before the spring semester. And so that led to some refining of our process that we implemented in January of 2014. Then we continued the pilot in the spring, adding a few more policies and being a little more stern about those policies. And then in the spring of last semester, we conducted a full-fledged evaluation of the product with our students. I would say that for us, some of the key elements to faculty engagement is actively listening to faculty concerns about moving in this direction. You know, there were a number of faculty who were apprehensive about moving forward with ExamSoft. Some of the concerns I heard is that ExamSoft can't handle the type of questions that I write, or from some faculty it was, oh, I'd love to be able to use ExamSoft because it would create efficiencies in these ways. So one of the things we did that I did not include on the timeline is we had an item writing retreat, a full day retreat on item writing, because it wasn't so much that ExamSoft couldn't handle the types of questions that faculty were writing, but it was how the questions were written. And so we have been very diligent about providing faculty with faculty development and resources regarding best practices in item writing. So that was very helpful. We also had training sessions on how to import ExamSoft questions. What was ExamSoft? What sort of data you can get out of ExamSoft, and those sorts of things. In addition, we also had one-on-one consultation. So if a faculty member was not available to attend one of the training sessions, I made sure that I was available to sit down one-on-one with that faculty member to answer any questions he or she had, to show them how to do things in ExamSoft, show them where they could find the online help resources. And we also made sure they had access to the ExamSoft webinars. I made sure that all of our course coordinators in the P3 year were enrolled in or had ExamSoft user IDs and everything created. So when there are notices that come out about the ExamSoft webinars, they get those notices and can participate. And I also forward those notices to them from me, saying this is an important topic that you may consider participating in. I think it would be helpful in this way. And then one of the major issues was exam creation support. Our faculty, just as sure as many of you may be involved in have teaching responsibilities, research responsibilities, research or scholarship, service, and also for the School of Pharmacy, there are many faculty who have clinical responsibilities. So sometimes it became very difficult for someone who's teaching a 2-week module to learn how to use the product, to go in and format everything appropriately and get the exam deployed without error. And that's where I stepped in to help create a smooth system and process for making sure that those things were done and done with excellence. So this is what our faculty training agenda looked like. Session 1 was Introduction to ExamSoft, how to create item banks, how to create items. And also in creating the items, we talked about creating categories for all of the items so that faculty could tag their questions. We also talked about piloting exams, managing exam takers. For example, what if a student had an issue with the exam and needed another upload or something like that? How would you go about doing that? And then the third session, we talked about reviewing outcomes, data, and reporting, how they should look at the item analysis. And I also offered them an article on interpreting the item analysis. ExamSoft also includes that information, but I wanted to give them additional data on, what does it mean if your point buy serial is this, your difficulty level is this? What are some recommendations for how to manage handling those items? And so again, we had 6 training dates offered per session over the full academic year. As it relates to the perceptions of academic misconduct, I share this slide with you. One of the things we had one of our technology team do is to create a web-based assigned seating application for all of our classrooms. So faculty are able to create or select the room that they're using for their exam, select the class, type in their class name, their exam date, randomize the seating, and it prints out a student list with the student's last name, first name, and their seat number. And this is for all of the classrooms that we use in the School of Pharmacy. And so in addition to that, we make sure that there's appropriate proctoring. So there could be, for a 140 student exam, we could have anywhere from 2 to 3 faculty members or TAs proctoring an exam. I would say that this helped a bit in combination with having the ExamSoft system, which allowed us to randomize items, randomize responses, and then the assigned seating application. I would say that this helped somewhat. When we were had our ACPE accreditation visit this fall, we were able to speak to these issues that came directly from the AACP faculty and student surveys. We were able to say that given that these are an issue in the surveys and it's been an issue for the last 3 years, these are some ways in which we're managing that perception of academic misconduct within our program. The other issue was communication to students. Sometimes students would say, oh, Mrs. Shuford, I don't have my computer today. Can I get a paper-based copy? And it wasn't that their computer was malfunctioning, or students would say, oh, I need to borrow a laptop from FARTech, which was our technology group. And so one of the things we began to notice as I had conversations with our technology team is that the same 5 students were always borrowing laptops for each and every exam. It turned out that they didn't want to install SoftTest on their own computers, but rather they wanted to use the school's computers to do that. So one of the things we did is we put a statement, ExamSoft statement, in all of our course syllabi and all of the courses that use ExamSoft that says students are strongly encouraged to familiarize themselves with the product, come to class prepared, and these are the consequences. It may not be as strong as some other schools, but I will say from the 2013-2014 year in comparison to this year, we have no issues with students coming prepared with their laptops, the exam downloaded, ready to take their exams using soft test. So let me back up a little bit and talk about item banking and item creation. We did try in the fall 2013 semester allowing faculty to enter their own items, create their own exams. Some faculty that worked well, other faculty didn't work well. So one of the things we did is we sort of centralized this. So faculty will send their items to me, and I'm responsible for education and assessment at the school, and I had 2 TAs working with me last semester. And so we would get the items imported and formatted into ExamSoft. And so we would make sure that everything is proofed, punctuation, and everything is perfect. We send that back to the faculty member to have them review it, test it out in ExamSoft in preview mode. We also tested it in preview mode. And then 2 days before the exam session, we would release the exam. We would release the password protected exam file. And at that time, we also shared an ExamSoft PowerPoint file. You may say, why did you do this? Keep in mind that we have 3 campuses. We have our Nova Fairfax campus, the UVA campus, and the Richmond, Virginia campus. So I created a PowerPoint file, and each class has this for all of their exams, which includes their ExamSoft, their username, their universal resume code, notes page, assigned seating chart, and a copy of their exam. So, and I'll show you this PowerPoint file in just a second. I got distracted because I didn't mute my office phone. And so here is, in just one more slide, I'll show you that PowerPoint file. So on exam day, we post the seating chart to Blackboard and outside of the classroom. The download time for students to download the exam file that closes 1 hour before the exam. When students come in the classroom, they see the PowerPoint file, they launch soft test, they load the exam. The ExamSoft notes page is distributed. The instructions, the PowerPoint file is displayed. And then we have faculty, TAs, or proctors who are there to troubleshoot the exam. When students are finished with the exam, they exit out, they raise their hand, they show us their yellow or green slide. The yellow slide means that the exam is closed, they can't get back into it. The green slide means that, or the green screen means that the file has been uploaded. And we never ever have any issues with this at all. We used to have issues with this last year, and that was an issue related to our technology, related to our wireless technology and our VPN. But we don't have any issues with this any longer. So this is a slide that I want to share with you that I mentioned. And this is a slide that we use for every single exam. It could be PHAR 661, 604. We tell the students that they need to disable their antivirus and spyware program. They can open soft test, click on take an exam, select the exam from the list of options, and usually there's only 1 or 2. Here's the password that they use, and we do use alphanumeric passwords. Wait to begin. And with the wait to begin, that gets a little tricky sometimes because we don't offer a standard laptop for our students, or students don't all have the same laptops. We have some students who come in with professional version of operating system versus home. And so it's just a hodgepodge of different technology in the classroom. So some computers open soft test really quickly, whereas others might take a few minutes. So we tell the students to go ahead and get started, launch soft test. We tell them how many minutes they get to complete 45 questions in this particular instance. And we also let them know that we've set a time limit, and so soft test will close your quiz or your test when you reach that time limit. We ask them to raise their hand when they're done. We collect the signed notes page, which includes the honor policy, and they show us their yellow or green screen before leaving the classroom. And this has been very helpful. It's done the same way for all of the courses, and students have not had any issue, and it seems to lessen anxiety because we are telling the students everything that they need to do for an exam session. And so now in the second semester, I don't even have to tell them anything, or the course coordinator don't have to tell the students anything. They just need the password and the exam name, and they're done. They have it all running. Now, I mentioned the ExamSoft notes page, and you may say, well, why do you use a notes page? We use a notes page just as another mechanism to make sure that people are in the classroom completing the exam. And given that we have 140 students scattered across 3 different campuses, I would hate for a student to not be in our class, but over in the library or upstairs in a classroom or at home completing the exam. And your question might be, well, how would they get the password if they're not there? We can talk about that in another presentation. But so one of the ways we have managed the ExamSoft notes page is we make colored copies of the notes pages for each exam. It does 2 different things. It allows us to make sure that students were in the classroom, they signed the honor pledge, but it also gives students an opportunity to write notes or scratch on paper, even though they use the exam comments and feedback feature that's built into ExamSoft. We conducted a survey of our students last spring, and students said, I still like to be able to write. I like to doodle. I like to make notes. I like to write comments about a question. And so we collect all of these pages at the end, and they're oftentimes referred to during the exam review session. Here what you see is a picture of ExamSoft being used in the infectious disease module, the first module that we offered, and they were working on this team-based learning activity, which is a case activity that they were working on. Now let's talk a little bit about life after an exam session. So what happens after an exam? Within an hour of the exam, given that all students were present for the exam, like this week we had an exam on Friday and we had an exam on Monday with several students who were away attending a conference. In that particular instance, a faculty member may not get the item analysis and summary report within an hour. We would probably wait until those students get back, or I could send it to them in a preliminary fashion so that they can look at items that may be problematic and think about those items which may need to be adjusting. And so I either work with a faculty member to make the adjustments, or I will make the adjustments myself. It's quite easy to do, and it's really easy to do. It's very, very intuitive. And the other thing we've done this semester is we've worked with ExamSoft and our Learning Management Systems group at the university to install the ExamSoft building block, which has been wonderful, because prior to the spring semester, we would have to download the grades in Excel format and then import those into Blackboard. So now we just click a button in ExamSoft saying push grades to Blackboard, and the grades are automatically pushed over to Blackboard, and that's just fantastic. It eliminates another step. And then we print exam taker reports for the review session. We tried doing a RSVP for the review session where students said, hey, I'm coming, make sure you have a printed copy for me. But what ended up happening with that is there were students who did not RSVP for the review session, but they'd show up expecting an exam report, or there were students who said they were coming to the review session and they did not show up. So we just print the copies, which happens to be a waste, but we do print them. I'm hoping that we will be able to look at the delayed results feature in ExamSoft over the summer to see if that's something that we can consider using. So from the faculty perspective, this is some feedback that I've gotten from some of our faculty about ExamSoft. Many of them have said that strong faculty support is key. It's very, very helpful to them during all phases of the process. They like the fact that we've centralized the administration of some of the exams because it does promote consistency. They say that it promotes efficiency. It enhances the quality improvement process, and then it sort of softens the anxiety that many students and faculty face when using the system. Although it's not a complicated system, I think the issue could be that given that many of our faculty teach, for 3 weeks, 6 weeks, we only have a few who teach all semester long. They're just not comfortable with going in and deploying an exam, and we're hoping to work on that this summer. They also said that it's very helpful to find out what features students have been oriented to or exposed to. And so the first year we held an ExamSoft exam, we had an piloted ExamSoft, we had an orientation for students. But this year, what we decided to do was to integrate it into our Foundations lab with an exercise, and we gave the students a graded quiz on features and functions of ExamSoft, and they seemed to like that much more. Faculty thought that it would be helpful to develop a timeline or a checklist of tasks for pre-exam, exam day, and post-exam. So I have a list that I share with faculty about this needs to happen at this time point. This is what happens on exam day, and this was what happens after exam. And so as we're preparing for their courses, I send it to them so that they are aware of what to expect. Faculty should review their questions before and after they're entered into ExamSoft. This is always helpful, because you never know if you might leave might have a grammatical error or something in one of the items. So it's always helpful to review. So one of the things I've done is before we publish an exam to students, I print out a copy of that exam for faculty from ExamSoft so that they can see what's in ExamSoft. And I also give them the option of previewing it using the preview feature in ExamSoft from the student perspective. During exams, they believe that it's important to have a plan for addressing problematic issues, or technical issues. What happens when a student's laptop crashes during the middle of an exam? Well, the solution for that is the universal resume code. We found that if you power a laptop down, bring it back up within the 7 minutes, you most likely will not have to use the universal resume code. It'll bring you right back to where you left off. But after that 7 minutes, you may have to enter the universal resume code. That's one of the reasons I keep it in the notes section of that PowerPoint slide so that the faculty member has it right there with them and they can use it if need be. One of the things we use in our clinical therapeutics modules are a lot of case-based questions, and early on with the implementation, probably with the first module that we rolled out, students said it's helpful to keep case-based questions grouped together, which makes sense, rather than having it as a pop-up box, as an attachment. So one of the things we had done was included a pop-up box with the case information. And so now what happens with each of the items, the case information is added to the top before, as part of the STEM. Another faculty member felt that it's helpful to go over ExamSoft features with students, like how to use the calculator, how to cross out answers, how to highlight text, and then how to set the timer. And so now our students are really, really comfortable with this, and they're also able to teach their classmates how this is done. But I don't think that we have any issues with this at this point. And I think all of these issues were probably resolved by October of this past year, where students knew how to highlight, because we incorporated some of these types of questions in the ExamSoft exam or quiz that we included during Foundations Lab. From the faculty perspective, I did ask faculty, what did you like most? I surveyed faculty at the end of this fall semester, and they say they liked instant feedback and the ease of grading. When you have an ExamSoft exam and all of the items are multiple choice, you don't have to do much. You may need to adjust an item by making it a bonus, throwing it out, or selecting or changing an answer. But it's really easy to grade. And even when you use essay items, it's very easy to grade those items. What they liked least was uploading questions into ExamSoft. They felt that sometimes that could take a long time, and I think that's not necessarily because it does take a long time. Even though I've showed them how to use the importer, the RTF importer, and the Excel importer, I think it's just that they have so many different responsibilities with teaching, service, research, and clinical responsibilities that they can see where this could take some time for them. And so a recommendation that they made for improvement was dedicated support with importing questions and formatting questions. And I'm going to speed it up a little bit so that you guys have questions so if you have questions, I can answer them. So some of the advantages that we've seen with ExamSoft and the implementation and how we've sort of structured it is the banking of test items for repeated use. We're now in our second year. We probably have over 2,000 items in our exam portal, and we're able to use those items or modify those items from year to year. Also, the categorizing of items by outcomes and objectives for assessment reporting purposes. One of the things we're working on now is deciding how we're going to tag our items. Are we going to only tag them by course objectives? Are we going to tag them by ACPE standards? Or are we going to tag them by the NAPLEX blueprint? And so those are some options we're considering, and we're hoping to begin tagging our items over the summer. We love the item analysis and exam summary reports. Many of our faculty like the exam summary report, but I really like to see the detailed item analysis. It's very helpful in identifying those questions that might need modifying, that might need adjustment throughout your exam. And then the other thing that I like about the exam summary report is you are able to identify students who are experiencing some difficulty in some of your courses. And so we haven't played with this a lot or explored how we can really capitalize on this feature. And we are going to be talking about this over the summer. But given that I am the ExamSoft administrator, I am able to see when names appear at the bottom 27% exam after exam after exam. And there may be the opportunity for us to identify that student earlier on and possibly offer the student some tutoring, some sort of remediation or something like that. Immediate grading and feedback. I just love the grading and feedback. You're able to tell the students why their answer was incorrect by including a rationale. You're also able to push to your LMS. We happen to push to Blackboard so that we have eliminated the need to Federal Express exams to our satellite campuses. And then whereas before we were waiting to Federal Express to receive exams and then get them graded and then send them back to the satellite campuses for exam review sessions, we have actually been able to scale that time down considerably. And so if we have an exam on Friday, it's possible that we could have an exam review session that morning. And so for those students who are attending the conference this week where the exam was this past Friday, they will be taking their makeup exam on Thursday morning at 8 o'clock, and the exam review session will be held Thursday afternoon at 1 o'clock. So I think that's really wonderful that they're able to get the feedback very fast. So where do we go next? At the VCU School of Pharmacy, we're thinking about how it's best for us to categorize the items that are in our item bank. And so we're hoping to have that finalized by the spring so that faculty can go in and tag some of the items over the summer, so that when exams are created in the fall, they will already be tagged. We just have to go in and build the exams and publish them to the students. The curriculum committee is also considering an exam day or an exam block. And you may say, why is that discussion being had at this point? The reason we're having that discussion is because currently we're only using ExamSoft in our P3 year, and that is due to the infrastructure that we have in the school. We have one large classroom that accommodates 145 students, where there's data and power to each seat. So all of our other classrooms that we use are traditional lecture style, auditorium style seating. So it makes it difficult to bring in a laptop and you have power right there for every student. So if we were to move to an exam block, if we were to have a morning exam Mondays through Friday, or an exam in the afternoon Monday through Friday, and able to put different courses in those exam blocks, it would make it easier for us to move ExamSoft into our P1 and P2 year, which is ultimately where we hope to be. The other thing we're considering is delayed exam review for the fall 2015 semester. There has been some conversation on the ExamSoft user group about delayed exam review, and so we are going to spend some time testing some exams, delaying to make sure that there's not the opportunity for students to, how do I say, I don't ever want to say cheating, but we just want to make sure that we don't provide opportunity for more academic misconduct. We want to make sure that we hold items in our item pool, make sure that they're secure instead of them being shared with the world. So some of the lessons we've learned is that a quality assurance system is essential. You have to think about things and maybe not in a traditional way. You have to think about how things connect. It is essential to develop an exam policy, and I learned this from my colleagues at the University of Maryland. It is essential to have an exam policy that's consistent for all courses, and you should set the expectations high and early on and make sure that you hold students accountable to those policies. And then consistency across courses is important. It just makes things so much better and easier on the students if they know that all courses are gonna be consistent in the way their exams are run. And so what I mean by that is, how do you include an attachment? Is it going to be an attached as part of that image, or is it going to be included in the STEM? You know, what are you going to do? So we're working on some of those issues here at the school. And then open communication is very helpful for our geographically dispersed campuses, and it's helpful if that communication can occur early and on a regular basis. So anytime I'm communicating about an exam, I make sure that I communicate with the course coordinator first, but I may send that information to those people who are at the geographically dispersed campuses to make sure they are included in the communication loop. But I do encourage our course coordinators to make sure that everybody's kept in the loop, that in the event that there's a disruption in service, as there was today, I believe, at the Inova Fairfax Hospital, where we have some of our students, if we had an exam scheduled today and the students were unable to complete that exam, and they had to come in to complete it at a later time, at least those folks who are responsible for administering the exam on their campus would have all of the details regarding that particular exam, the password, the universal resume code, the PowerPoint slide, all of those things. One of the other issues is we always encourage our course coordinators to release grades after reviewing the item analysis. This is always very helpful. Last year, we may have had an instance where, the grades were released before an item analysis was reviewed for an exam. And this creates a lot of anxiety for students. So one of the things that we've incorporated into our QA system or QA process is only release the grades after the item analysis has been reviewed, and if adjustments are needed to the items, you can make them and then release the grades. And then one of the things that I still try to share with faculty, I think many of our faculty understand it, but it's also and it's important for them to understand it, but the assessment by categorization of items benefits the school, the administration, as it relates to pulling together information for our accrediting body or for the accrediting body of the university if we ever needed to provide data. And so it may not be very important for the faculty member, but it is important to the administration. So at this point, are there any questions?
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Veronica, for your presentation. As we begin the question and answer portion of session, this is a quick reminder that if you have a question that you would like to pose, please enter it into the questions portion of the control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. We already have several that have come in throughout the presentation, so we're going to go ahead and jump into that now, but if you do have one, now is a great time to go ahead and pose it. Okay, Veronica, the first question is approximately how long did it take for the student orientation?
We had an hour. Student schedules are very busy, and we did an orientation in an hour. But I do say that the way we handled it this year by integrating it into the Foundations Lab as an exercise and an assignment was much more appropriate. It was well received by the students.
Great, thank you. Next question is, how do you work with faculty who teach periodically and may forget how to build exams?
Exactly, and that's where I come in, and that's the situation here at VCU, because a lot of our courses are modules where it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 5 weeks. And then there are a few courses that run, that span the entire semester. So that's where the faculty member may send the, will send the assessment to me, the test or quiz to me, and I import them using the RTF importer, and I get it back to faculty within an hour or so, and it's done. And so that's what I meant by additional support needed. You know, when faculty said one of the ways in which we could improve the system is to have additional support. So we are recruiting some help for not only just ExamSoft, but also assessment. And so that person will help me with getting some of the items in, and then over the summer, faculty can go in and tag those items, because you can always retroactively tag items and pull reports. So what's most important is getting the items ready and making sure that they go out to students in a quality fashion, because we've heard, from students through focus groups where, this class may have had an exam where there were errors in it. And so one of the things that helps, by sending the exams to me, we're able to get the items in, note some of the issues with the exam, and send it back to the faculty member so that he or she can perform one last quality check. And we've hardly had any issues with any errors, omissions of anything in any of the exams since we've been using ExamSoft. And I think it's due to the way in which we handle the importing of questions.
Perfect, thank you. Next question is, how do you use ExamSoft to do cross-campus comparisons, and what do you peg your comparison on?
Well, that's a very good question, because we have an assessment policy where we look at a few things for cross-campus comparison. And so we can pull reports. Like I have a list on my board here, all of our students who are at the Inova campus, all of the students who are at our UVA campus. And so we can pull reports based on those. We haven't gotten to that level at this point, but I'm hoping that within the next year we will, because that's some of the information that might be very helpful to ACPE.
Perfect, thank you. Wow, we have a lot of questions. We are not going to get through all of these today, folks. I'm so sorry. This is great, though. If we don't get to your question, we will follow up with you via email. Either us at ExamSoft or Veronica can email you directly if she wants to. Just wanted to throw that out there because we're not going to get through all of these. Let's see, next question. Have faculty been pleased with ExamSoft for constructed response questions?
We've not used constructed response questions that much. Just this past Friday, I had 2 questions that were constructed response, but I would say they were pleased. We did not have any issues with them, and the TA went in and graded the questions, and it was done. It was as simple as that. And the reason I know this is because I just got off of the phone with the instructor before the webinar, and we were just wrapping up some issues with that item, and there were no issues with those constructed responses.
Great, thank you. Next question is, how does ExamSoft work with grading of essays or more subjective assignments?
Do you mean what exactly? Well, let me back it up, because there's no way for you to really reach out to that person again. You can enter an essay, open essay question. The students complete it, they type everything in using SoftTest. When it closes out, you close out the exam. It is not graded right away. So the faculty member, the grader, has to go in and click grade essay and is able to grade the essays. And then based upon whether or not you're using a rubric, or whether it's a paper-based rubric or a rubric that's included in ExamSoft, you go in and determine the number of points the students got for that grade, and you just enter the points, and when you close it out, it shows up in the exam report, the exam taker report.
Yeah, exactly. And if I could just piggyback on that, just for the logistics of how that works, with our rubrics portion of ExamSoft, clients or students can upload any type of assignment that you do assign them to be graded on the rubric that you create. So it could be an essay, a presentation, a paper, an audio file, whatever you assign them, and then you can go in and tag each row in the rubric to the learning outcomes or categories that you already have stored in ExamSoft. That way you're still getting all the data from those assignments.
Yeah.
Okay, next question, last one we're going to have time for. How do you address students who want the specific test questions and feedback on those?
how do we address specific students who want the specific test questions? That's part of our exam review session. And so that was determined by our clinical therapeutics module coordinators. And so with an exam review session, we do provide the students with a copy of their ExamSoft notes page because they may have been writing their thoughts. And then we also provide them with a paper-based copy that includes the item, the responses, the correct response, and the exam taker response. And so they get this, and then they turn it back in. So it's a closed exam review session where they're not able to have any cell phones or anything like that. It's just an opportunity for them to look over their exam. And then these papers are collected by the TA at the end of the review session. And that's one of the areas we're looking at, the delayed results feature in ExamSoft. I think that's what it's called, the delayed exam results feature, where we're able to set a date and time for students to review the exam. And so we're hoping that we would be able to use that during an exam session instead of providing the copies of the exam reports. I hope that answers your question.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much, Veronica. We really appreciate your time. If you would flip to the next slide for me, please. I want to say thank you to everybody who gave up a portion of their very valuable time today. Just very quickly, we'd like to make you aware of some of our upcoming events. First, our annual ExamSoft Assessment Conference registration is now in full swing. Stop by assessmentconference.com for the details. Next slide. Also, in conjunction with this conference, please join us next week if you are a Twitter user for Assess Chat, for a chance to chat with peers in assessment. If you register, go to go.examsoft.com/assesschat. You can be automatically entered to win prizes during the chat, including a free full pass to both the ExamSoft Assessment Conference and the annual AALHE Conference. One more reminder, you will receive a quick pop-up survey when you exit this webinar. Please, we would really appreciate for you to just take a couple of seconds to let us know how we're doing. Again, thank you to our host, Veronica Shuford, and thank you for your time today. Everybody have a great day.
Thank you, Stephanie.